The Sd.Kfz 251 half-track was an armored fighting vehicle designed and first built by the Hanomag company during World War II and based on their earlier, unarmored Sd.Kfz 11 vehicle. The larger of the pair of the fully armored wartime half-tracks of the Wehrmacht, the Sd.Kfz 251 was designed to transport the panzer grenadiers of the German Mechanized Infantry Corps into battle. Sd.Kfz 251s were the most widely produced German half-tracks of the war, with at least 15,252 vehicles and variants produced by various manufacturers, and were commonly referred to simply as Hanomags by both German and Allied soldiers. Design. There were four main model modifications, which formed the basis for at least 22 variants. The initial idea was for a vehicle that could be used to transport a single squad of 10 panzer grenadiers to the battlefield protected from enemy small arms fire, and with some protection from artillery fire. In addition, the standard mounting of at least one MG-34 or MG-42 machine gun allowed the vehicle to provide support by fire for the infantry squad once they had disembarked in battle. The armor plates were designed to stop penetration by standard rifle heavy machine gun bullets by using both metal thickness and armor sloping. The fairly vertical front-facing plates were 14.5 mm thick. The sides were steeply angled V-shape and just 8 mm thick, saving weight. These plates were both safe against the normal rifle apparent, which could pierce about 8 mm of vertical armor. Positive aspects of the open top included greater situational awareness and faster egress by the infantry, as well as the ability to throw grenades and fire over the top of the fighting compartment as necessarily while remaining under good horizontal cover. The downside was a major vulnerability to all types of plunging fire. This included indirect fire from mortars and field artillery, as well as depressed trajectory small arms fire from higher elevated positions, lobbed hand grenades, even Molotov cocktails, and strafing by enemy aircraft. The first two models were produced in small numbers from 1939. A and B models can be identified by the structure of the nose armor, which comprised two trapezoidal armor panels, the lower of which had a cooling hatch. The B model, which began production in 1940, eliminated the fighting compartment's side vision slits. The C model, which started production in mid-1942, featured a simplified hexagonal-shaped forward armored plate for the engine. Models A through C had rear doors that bulged out. The C model had a large production run, but was quite complex to build, involving many angled plates that gave reasonable protection from small arms fire. From early 1943, the D model was developed with the purpose of halving the number of angled body plates, simplifying the design and thus speeding up the production. D models can be easily recognized by the single-piece sloping rear. The standard personnel carrier version was equipped with a 7.92 mm MG-34 or MG-42 machine gun mounted at the front of the open compartment, above and behind the driver. A second machine gun could be mounted at the rear on an anti-aircraft mount. Variants were produced for specialized purposes, including with anti-aircraft guns, light howitzers, anti-tank guns and mortars, or even large unguided artillery rockets, as well as a version with an infrared searchlight used to spot potential targets for associated Panther tanks equipped with infrared detectors. Another potentially good design feature of the Sd.Kfz 251 was the large track area, with the characteristic slack track design with no return rollers for the upper run of track. and the Schachterlaufwerk system of overlapping and interleaved main road wheels common to virtually all German half-tracks of the period. This lowered the ground pressure and provided better traction, giving the Sd.Kfz 251 better cross-country performance than most other nations' half-track vehicles. The 251 also had tank steering, whereby the normal steering wheel moved the front wheels, but after more turning of the steering wheel, the tracks of brake to cause turning, like on a tank. This is more complicated, but gives greater mobility than US half-tracks. However, the interleaved and overlapping main road wheels shared a major problem with the Tiger and Panther tanks that also used such road wheel configurations in muddier winter weather conditions, such as those during a Rasputitsa mud season of the coldest Russian winter conditions. Accumulated mud and snow could freeze solid between the road wheels, immobilizing the vehicle. The early production models of this vehicle were issued to the 1st Panzer Division in 1939. These vehicles were meant to enable Panzer Grenadiers to accompany panzers and provide infantry support as required. In practice, there were never enough of them to go around, and most Panzer Grenadier units had to make do with trucks for transport. Variants. There were 23 official variants and sundry unofficial variants. Each variant is identified by a suffix to the model number. However, there was some overlap in the variant numbers. Sd.Kfz 251/1 Schützenpanzerwagen. Standard personnel carrier. Sd.Kfz 251/1 a USF. Panzer made with plain steel 5mm plates instead of armor to make up numbers due to slow initial 251 production, around 350 made up to mid-1940. 251/1I with intercom facilities. 251/1 rocket launcher, a Werthrahmen 40, equipped with 6 side-mounted frames for launching 280mm or 320mm Werfkörper rockets. Sd.Kfz 251/1 Falk infrared imaging equipment for driver and MG42, to be used in combination with Sd.Kfz 251 20th UHU, mostly a USF.D variants. Sd.Kfz 251 halves Schützenpanzerwagen. 81mm mortar carrier, carried 66 rounds for the GRW-34. A base plate was also stored so that the mortar could be offloaded and used. Sd.Kfz 251 3rds Mittelheer Commando Panzerwagen. Communications vehicle, fitted with extra radio equipment for command use in a USF. See in a USF.D versions. 251 3rds on Fug 8 and Fug 5 radios. 251 3rds 2 Fug 8 and Fug 5 radios. 251 3rds 3 Fug 7 and Fug 1 radios. 251 3rds IV Fug 11 and Fug 12 radios. Command vehicle variant. 251 3rds of a volt Fug 11 radio. Sd.Kfz 251 quarters Schützenpanzerwagen für Munition und Zubehör des Lig 18. Gun towing tractor, initially for use with the 7.5 cm Leichtes Infanteriegeschütz 18. Later used to tow the 50mm Pak 38. 75 mm Pak 40 and 10.5 cm LEFH-18 light field howitzer, Sd.Kfz 251 5th Schützenpanzerwagen für Pionierzug, assault engineer vehicle with inflatable boats stored in the side storage lockers, and light dismantleable assault bridges stored inside through loss of a seat for more storage space. Early command vehicles for pioneer platoons were equipped with a 37 mm Pak 36 anti-tank gun mount, Sd.Kfz 251 6th Mittelfunkpanzerwagen. Command version equipped with map boards, cipher and encoding machines. Enigma, probably only made in versions AUSF. A and a USF. B, replaced by the 251 3rd IV Command SPW, Sd.Kfz 251 7th I Pioneer Panzerwagen. Another assault engineer vehicle, this had fittings to carry assault bridge ramps on the sides, 251 7th II, as above but with different radio, Sd.Kfz 251 8th I, Krankenpanzerwagen. Armored ambulance capable of carrying up to 8-seated casualties or 4-seated casualties and 2 stretcher cases, 251 8th II, as above but fitted with FUG-5 radio and 2 meters rod antenna. Assigned to HQ and Panzer units, Sd.Kfz 251 9th Schützenpanzerwagen. Equipped with a 75 mm L-24 low-velocity gun, using the same pedestal gun mount employed on the Stug-3, nicknamed Stummel. In 1944, a revised modular gun mount was introduced to facilitate production that also incorporated a coaxial MG42. This universal gun mount was also used to create the Sd.Kfz 258th variant and the Sd.Kfz 234 thirds, Sd.Kfz 251 10th Schützenpanzerwagen. Equipped with a 37 mm Pak 36 anti-tank gun mount. Issued to platoon leaders as a fire support vehicle. Early versions used the whole top half of a Pak 36 with full gun shield, but later a USF, C and AMP-D used a much smaller half-size gun shield so that the vehicle didn't advertise its firepower, so it looked more like a regular 251/1. Sd.Kfz 251 11th Fernspreichpanzerwagen. Telephone line layer, Sd.Kfz 251 12th Mestra-Panzerrat-Panzerwagen. Survey and instrument carrier for artillery units. Never built. Sd.Kfz 251 13th Schalaufnahmepanzerwagen. Sound recording carrier for artillery units. Never built. Sd.Kfz 251 14th Schalaufnahmepanzerwagen. Sound recording carrier for artillery units. Never built. Sd.Kfz 251 15th Lichthauswehrpanzerwagen. Flash spotting carrier for artillery units. Never built. Sd.Kfz 251 16th Flammpanzerwagen. Fitted with 2 flame projectors and initially a rear-mounted flamethrower, detachable but still connected to the vehicle, to be operated by dismounted infantry. This was in addition to the standard forward machine gun mount. 6 Sd.Kfz 251 16th Flammpanzerwagens were authorized for issue to each Panzer Grenadier Regiment or in the Pioneer Battalion. Though vulnerable, they were used very successfully at night to quickly attack enemy infantry who had just captured German trenches, hitting the enemy before they could consolidate and bring up the heavy weapons that would make them much costlier to defeat later. Later USF.The versions had larger gun shields. Sd.Kfz 251 17th Schutzen Panzerwagen, anti-aircraft vehicle armed with a 2 cm Kw.A-38 on a pedestal mounting with a small armored turret to protect the gunner. Late war, it was issued as a platoon commander's vehicle to replace the Sd.Kfz 251 10th, Sd.Kfz 251 18th I Beobachtungspanzerwagen, artillery observation vehicle. 251 18th Iowa, differences unknown, likely different radio fit. 251 18th 2 armored observation vehicle. 251 18th I different radio. Sd.Kfz 251 19th Fernsprechbetriebspanzerwagen, telephone exchange vehicle. Sd.Kfz 251 20th Schützenpanzerwagen introduced in late 1944. It mounted a 60 cm infrared searchlight with a range of 1.5 km for illuminating targets at night. Known as UHU, they guided IR site-equipped Panther tanks to targets that were out of range of their own smaller infrared searchlights. Sd.Kfz 251 21st Schützenpanzerwagen, anti-aircraft and ground support variant equipped with a triple mount of MG 151 autocannon, early version being MG 151 15ths of a millimeter cannon, later being MG 151 20ths of a millimeter Luftwaffe cannon on a Kriegsmarine triple mount. Awesome firepower, especially when organized into platoons of 6 SPW, but with each gun capable of firing 600 plus rounds per minute. 3 guns equals 2,000 revolutions per minute. It could fire off its full load of 3,000 rounds in just 90 seconds. Sd.Kfz 251 22nd 7.5 cm Pak 40L 46 off Mittlerer Schützenpanzerwagen, fitted with a 75 mm Pak 40 anti-tank gun, probably too big a gun for the carriage, overloaded but effective, and the Yugoslav military was still using captured examples into the 1950s. Sd.Kfz 251 23rd 2 cm Handgelaffe 38 off Mittlerer Schützenpanzerwagen, reconnaissance variant intended to replace the Sd.Kfz 259th and fitted with the same turret mounting as the Sd.Kfz 234/1 armored car. Probably never built. OT-810 Czechoslovakian-produced version, made by Praga and Tatra. This version had an air-cooled diesel engine and an armored roof over the troop compartment. The vehicle was not liked by those who used it and was nicknamed Hitler's Revenge. A completely wheeled version is the Praga V3S. Field-modified variants. Various field-modified variants also existed during World War II. There was a kit for installing an armored map table in place of the forward MG-34 mount in use in 1941. One interesting variant was made at the closing stages of the war, when German forces removed the armored bodies of damaged Sd.Kfz 251s and installed them on light truck chassis, resulting in a wheeled variant of the Sd.Kfz 251. At least 2 were made in this way, judging by the number plates.